Welcome to CAM Radio, an ahead of the curve initiative by Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas, bringing you every Friday the latest in legal and policy. Stay tuned. Enjoy listening.
Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone. In 2024 and beyond, in a world dominated by the advent of artificial intelligence, how are India's legal firms looking to survive, not just thrive, in a world that refuses to stop evolving? Is it just a law firm's ability to navigate the courtroom, but also how they capture, manage, and leverage knowledge? What would be the right instincts that would position a law firm to mitigate risks, win, and retain clients and deliver efficient solutions to complex legal issues? When legal services are being commoditized, how does expertise remain a competitive advantage? And what does it really take for law firms to stay ahead in the knowledge race, not just reacting to change, but anticipating it? And what is with the rise of a new position, such as Chief Knowledge Officer in law firms? To break it all down, please help me welcome Rachel Manser, Chief Knowledge Officer, Sri Lamachan Mangaldas. Rachel, it's my sheer pleasure and privilege to host you at the CAM Radio. I'm looking forward to having a very meaningful conversation with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that delightful introduction.
Rachel, just sort of taking it further from introduction remarks, the entire idea behind Chief Knowledge Officer in law firms, could you perhaps demystify this for us? First, what does it really mean? These are like very fancy words, Chief Knowledge Officer. Yeah.
I know sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming to have such a large role, as if you're the person who should know everything in a law firm, which quite clearly you don't. But let's break it down a little bit, shall we? So, a law firm is a knowledge organization, like many professional services firms. Our product, what we sell, it's our knowledge and it's our expertise. It's why clients come to us, particularly a firm like CAM. If you think about how much of a rich history of a collective knowledge a firm like CAM has, stretching back over 100 years, hundreds of thousands of matters, many cutting edge. Add up the amount of experience that all the lawyers have here, it is a huge asset. Think about that colossal institutional memory. And that's just looking back. If you look forward, we have over 1,000 lawyers who are working on the best deals every day, creating knowledge every day. So the question possibly is the other way, why would you not have a chief knowledge officer to really think about how you harness that? So that's kind of what my role is.
So what is this harnessing all about? Could you perhaps be a little more specific about what really is the toolkit behind harnessing when you say that? What is the kind of value add that you bring to the table? And what really is it that you mean when you say you're unlocking the knowledge both in the past and in the future?
Absolutely. And it's not a short answer. There is not one quick sort of technological fix and suddenly AI does it for you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. It is really about discipline. It is about thinking about how do we recognize what that critical knowledge of a law firm is, and then how do you organize it? It's not just knowledge, it's information, it's data, it's wisdom. And the point of it is that if we can harness it, we then can use it again for our clients. So they're getting the benefit of that wisdom on every matter that we do for them. So it's very much about capturing the quality, the excellence. It's about working smarter, working more efficiently, not reinventing the wheel. And for our lawyers, it's about being able to learn from the best lawyers around them. So actually, it's very much about how we develop our people. So you asked about the toolkit. I wouldn't say it's straightforward. You have to think, what is the knowledge that you have? It's the knowledge of the law, for sure. You'd expect that. But it's the knowledge of the law as it was, particularly if you're a litigator. It's the knowledge of where the law is going to go. And that's oftentimes exactly that sort of thought leadership that our clients are looking for. It's really understanding our clients and the markets and sectors that they operate in. It's how to deliver deals. There's no point just coming for a chat. You actually want to get your problem solved. And so you have to consider what are the tools that you can put in place to enable knowledge to be shared and accessed. So I think people listening to this might assume that's a sort of a library function. Those of us who've grown up with databases that you think, okay, well, that's what you do. My suggestion is that it's far bigger than that. Much of what a lawyer knows is never formally crystallized and written down. We call it tacit knowledge. It's that stuff that you know because you are hugely experienced. So my contention is that knowledge is something which is dynamic, living, breathing, growing every day. So it's about, yes, technology. How do you capture the documents, the advice? How do you create things like precedents and manuals and guides? But it's more than that. It's how do you get knowledge, the key learning points from a deal shared on a regular basis. It's looking at what process steps do you say, okay, now is a good time to do a deal debrief and to really capture that. So it's about technology, process, or it's about having that culture of continuous learning. It's about encouraging people at every step of their journey to be sharing and contributing. So there's a number of different things, not just technology and databases.
Thanks for that, Rachel. And you sort of beautifully put it that it is just beyond technology and databases. And it would be very limiting to think of your role just relegated to that of technology, databases, and putting the content into that. So, is it really about business development in the garb of, say, knowledge as a service? Because that is what exactly really law firms are. Every advice is translating into a billable hour. That's just the nature of the business, right? You can't really have access to such top lawyers just to chit chat casually. Everything is billable. So when you say you provide knowledge to clients, and I will talk about internal communications later, but externally, so everything is billable, right? Whatever you provide to your clients.
That's the nature of the law business. We're selling our knowledge. That's the product. I wouldn't say necessarily that everything is billable. I think there's many times that lawyers will be talking to clients and as part of the client relationship, discussing, for example, where the law is going. It's also something that I think it's very important to CAM as a thinking law firm. I think you've described it as that before, to make a contribution to the wider development of the legal landscape. But I think clients should be seeing the benefit of investment in knowledge on every single matter that they're doing, that there's a consistent level of quality and excellence that they should rightfully expect from CAM. And my job is to try and make that really easy, and also make sure that the way that the services are provided are done as efficiently as we can, so that we're trying to make our clients happy, that they are solving their problems or achieving their business objectives as quickly as they can. It is a key part of our business, but I don't think everything has a price tag.
Thanks for that, Rachel. I think CAM as a thinking law firm, rightfully so, because, and I think when we were chatting also, I think the day prior, I sort of agree with this sort of thinking. Also because I think a lot of it is also attributed to his managing partner, Cyril Schropp, as to sort of how he thinks and a bit of a thinker. How does that translate into your role as knowledge management? What are some of the attributes of a thinking law firm that you're building into your practice? And thereby, how are you building this law firm as a law firm of the future? One that is world-class, one that is revered, and one that is seen by everybody, and people take notes about it copiously, right? What CAM is doing, how they are sort of treading in this direction. So in this podcast, when you have other people from other law firms also tuning and listening to you, what really can you talk a little more specifically about your role here?
So my role is multifaceted, as previously described. It's about being able to tap into that immense amount of institutional memory, certainly from Mr. Schroff, but from the eminent practitioners who are all around us. And a key part of my job is to make that accessible. I can't clone them, but I would like to make sure that their knowledge is part of that ecosystem and accessible to all. Imagine if you're a junior lawyer coming in, knowing that you can access all of this amazing knowledge and experience that's gone before. And there's a number of different ways of doing it. And we talked, a little bit about process and the technology behind it. But I think there's something bigger that's about inculcating a sense of intellectual curiosity. And certainly that's something that Mr. Schroff espouses. I would never wish to speak for him. But that sense of deep thinking and deep knowledge, in my sense, I'm relatively new to CAM, but from speaking to the partners and lawyers that I've spoken to, it's very much part of that DNA. And that's something I want to utilize and to encourage in, all of the KPIs is the wrong phrase, because it's a culture. It's a culture of saying knowledge sharing is valued, and that we expect every lawyer to be sharing what they've learned with each other and being humble to ask, to learn from others as well, so that we have that, if things are going really brilliantly, that virtuous circle of knowledge sharing and continuous learning. And I do think that's led from the top, and that's certainly something I admire very much in Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. So basically, there are three parts to this. So one is, of course, the knowledge sharing within the firm as a cultural or a mind shift change, if you will. That is one. Secondly, knowledge as a service to external clientele. And third is building the firm of the future, right? So one is that people within the country look at CAM as a homegrown law firm. But now with getting someone like you on board and now setting up international offices, so is it about really becoming a global law firm which is world class and not being a homegrown law firm? Is that also a step in that direction?
I'm not sure that's the question that I'm best placed to answer. So I obviously, you can probably hear from my accent, I come from an international law firm based in London, where I spent 25 years in the legal sector, and my specialism being knowledge. And before coming to CAM, I obviously chatted to some of the other partners who I've worked with about their experience. And CAM's reputation is so revered and so high on an international level that I would say that CAM is operating at that level. And me being here is to bring some of the ideas and best practices that I've seen in international firms to support what is already going on at CAM. So there is already depth of knowledge and expertise. And, if I can support it, institutionalizing how we do that, advising, for example, on the best process, best practice, best technology that I've seen elsewhere that can really take it to that next level, that's what I'm here to do. I am in awe of my colleagues here. They are brilliant lawyers, as your listeners will know already. So for me, it's about working in collaboration and preparing for the future. That was the other aspect of your question, wasn't it? I think everybody is aware that artificial intelligence, and most recently the element of that is generative AI coming through. We would say that we don't know in the short term exactly what that's going to mean, but I know that it's a when it comes, not if it comes. But what I think will be hugely important is having deep knowledge as a component of that. If you're going to use technology, being able to combine it with the deep knowledge that a law firm has, that only the law firm has, will enable you to have an amazing combination. If you haven't structured and thought through and organized your know-how and knowledge, it is harder to achieve that. On the flip side, there is a concern sometimes that the generative AI in particular doesn't give you, or you can't be assured that it gives you the quality that you ought to have. And so there it becomes even more important knowledge, have that training so they can look at it and review it with a critical eye and be certain that it is accurate. As I said, it's a when, not an if, in terms of these sorts of technologies. Being prepared now is frankly absolutely the right thing to do.
Thanks for that, Rachel. You spoke about artificial intelligence, and that's a great segue to my next question. I was coming to that. I'm very curious to know from the chief knowledge officer of a law firm, how would you be using artificial intelligence? How would you, because you said combining the institutional knowledge with technology. So what does that really mean in practical terms? Are we really talking about, say, like a CAM GPT, which is not a bad idea? There is something called a Gita GPT. There is a chat GPT for the holy book Gita. There are people, like for instance, you said something like this earlier, that you can't possibly clone Mr. Shroff. Actually, you can now with technology. Because AI has made that possible, that you can actually feed the way he thinks the data institutional knowledge. And there could be a GPT called Cyril GPT, which actually could give advice the way he would possibly think. So I'm very curious to know that how is a chief knowledge officer of a law firm of a stature of CAM is thinking about combining artificial intelligence with institutional knowledge.
I'm sure Mr. Schrock will think that's an excellent idea to have serial GPT. So I think that's one thing it can't do is it can't. Artificial intelligence is maths at the end of the day, and what it can't do is understand and have the tacit knowledge, which is the knowledge that has never been written down. So I think there are limitations. But I think particularly with large language models that can super quickly read, digest, analyze text, and combining that with approved or curated knowledge so that it has a benchmark, that it actually, the GPT or the large language model, is trained in a way that we are better able to ascertain whether something is likely to be accurate and is built such that you can then see the sources of where the results of this particular technology is drawing from. That will get us a much further way to be able to create good first draft documents. I truly believe there's always going to be a need for a highly experienced lawyer to look at that output with a very critical eye. What a technology can't do is be commercial and understand the client's interests in the way that a human can. It gives us lots of opportunity to be able to be more efficient, to be able to take some of the steps out, but it will still need that level of quality. But it gives opportunities for lawyers to develop new skills, to be able to focus on the areas which are very human. Where is the law going? What is a regulator likely to say? What does a client really want to achieve? And how can we best serve that client? There are areas where the human can then really, really excel. It's finding that marrying the best of both worlds. But I would say it's never quite as simple as just saying we can plug the machine in and there we have it. But I would say we're doing experimentation at this stage. So my colleague, who is the Chief Innovation Officer, would be better placed to talk through the different aspects. And it's certainly something a collaboration between myself and her.
Great, it's interesting. So I think there are two aspects to this. One is definitely the factual knowledge, and the other is the human aspect to it, which is where the intuition comes in, where the feelings or some of these non-tangible attributes come in, right? So one is the art part, another is the science part. Perhaps the science part could be commoditized and could be sort of translated into a machine. The art cannot. And that is where the human element comes in. But I think where a law firm could marry AI, I think it's a huge expanse out there. It's a huge ocean out there. And we've just gotten started on this one. I would also want to understand from you, Rachel, given your international experience, and I think that comes very handy and relevant, just given that you have done this in a London based law firm. If you were to be very candid about it in terms of the differentiation between Indian law firms vis-a-vis international law firms, especially when trying to make knowledge management critical and in a way future-proofing themselves?
That's a good question. I'd say I'm probably not yet at a stage where I can answer it fully. I think every lawyer, regardless of any kind of jurisdictional background, is hugely busy. So having the bandwidth to take on things that are new or to invest the time to develop new products, new knowledge products such as precedents or guides, etc., is an issue, come what may. In the law firms I've previously worked at, this has become a culture that is normalized and has been for the last 30 years or so. So actually that nature of sort of persuading people that if you invest the time now, you will benefit in years to come or in months, weeks to come. That persuasion doesn't necessarily need to happen, but I think maybe my job is to showcase the benefits that can be brought by investing our time and our resources. I think that's possibly a difference so far, just because, for example, in the UK market, there is a particular role of a knowledge lawyer whose job it is as an experienced lawyer is to dedicate their time simply to developing knowledge and training in their fellow lawyers. They don't have client billables.
Nice.
For example, that is a very different model, but it is a way to supercharge that investment in knowledge and creating those knowledge resources and assets. That's just a difference that I've observed so far. Maybe the other law firms do that. I haven't yet come across it. But yeah, so I think the challenges will be just sort of taking people on that journey of the art of the possible.
Nice. I like the way you put it. What are the kind of challenges that you foresee, Rachel, in terms of, say, your 100-day plan that you have come on board? Are there like 2 or 3 key challenges that you foresee and you have perhaps prepared, say, a plan in terms of how would you combat some of these?
Yes, well, on a personal level, 100-day plan is getting used to an entirely new country, and which is a joy. And I think I've come at the right time at the end of monsoon season and experiencing some of the wonderful festivals that have taken place by recently. In terms of any new role, you should be very carefully considering your plan for your initial period. I'm fortunate to have a great team here. And collectively, we're taking the opportunity to go out to all of our different practices to talk about how they treat knowledge at the moment, how they are sharing their knowledge, how they are learning from one another, what we can look to improve. So I think that is a really important first step in any new role. And what's wonderful is how welcome our colleagues here are to having those conversations. And we will be pulling all of that together and developing our strategy as you'd expect, and particularly with a nice thinking about how we can really work with clients. So those are the sort of areas that are critical to focus on. For me personally, it's getting to know a huge organization. I mean, we are 1,000+ lawyers. That's a lot of people, and it's fascinating to see how the law firm is organized, and there's some amazing things out there at the moment. So I feel very fortunate that we're going to be able to really capitalize on that.
We are getting towards the end of our conversation. It's been really a meaningful conversation here. Before I get into rapid fire with you, I have to ask you this, that what do you think is the future of the legal industry in the times of AI? I mean, how does one really build a very anti-fragile or a very formidable law firm, a law firm that sort of becomes an institution for 100 next years to come, and it is not sort of personality driven? How do you build that? And perhaps you are playing a very important role there, because all of that can be possible on back of building a very robust knowledge management culture, which is why I ask you this.
Can I just say that's a huge question, which we could probably write a doctorate. But in short, I mean, I'm obviously partial in this answer, but it's understanding what your critical knowledge is and what value it is that you have as an organization. Clearly being ahead of the curve and not waiting until you're behind. This is what I really admire about CAM, is that, this is a firm which is always innovating. And if you're not innovating in a market like ours, then you're going backwards. And having that mindset of always thinking, okay, where can we improve next? That is the sort of attitude, that intellectual curiosity, that thinking firm, which will take you forward into the next 100 years. From a knowledge perspective, we must never be afraid of technology. It's coming, and it's been changing over the entirety of my career. And there's been new roles created. I always see these things as an opportunity. So, for example, in my old firm, there were data scientists who are combining data from different parts of a firm so that we could really assist the lawyers in coming up with new products and new ways of serving clients. There's opportunity if you're willing and open to harnessing that. And I think that those words, intellectual curiosity, are what I would come back to. And if you hold on to that, it's uncertain where we might be in 100 years. But I do believe that, as a society, we will always need the law. We'll always need lawyers. Maybe we'll be supercharged with technology and able to answer anything at any time.
Okay. So I have just 2 questions for you quickly on the rapid fire front. How was your first day in India? How would you remember that? The first impression.
First impression of India, noisy, colourful. My main takeaway is that the Mumbai traffic is incredible. But I think possibly what I see that others who live here all the time don't see is just every time I walk down the street, the vibrancy, the color, the activity. That's really inspiring. I love it.
Okay. And one street food item which you've gotten hooked onto.
I can never remember the name. It's the potato and sort of chili patties that what are they called?
It's called the vada pav.
But that's exactly right. We were walking in Mumbai, and we saw this guy was cooking them fresh for us, and he said to me, "Shall I take some of the spice out?" And I said, "But they're tasty," and I love the fact they're so accessible to everybody. I think it's a fantastic thing that India has food such as this available from every street corner. It's wonderful. My education on food will, I'm sure, be enhanced by my colleagues who. I'm not sure I've met a colleague yet who doesn't love food and has lots of opinions. So I feel very blessed that I shall be learning a lot.
Thank you. And I think you're so right with this noisy attribution because my first impression of London when I went there for my Shevling Fellowship and when I took the tube, I mean, I was startled to find people not having any communication with each other at all. People were just not even looking at each other. They were like either looking at their phones or I think they were all reading the newspaper. So I think for me, that was a huge revelation culturally that you just don't sort of do a high five on a metro that, hey, what happened and all that. So I think these are huge cultural changes and perhaps you will get used to it as you spend your time in India. I wish you all the best, Rachel, and I had a very interesting conversation with you. And I look forward to our chat more and more as you sort of do this Chief Knowledge Officer role at Kim. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insightful questions. I've enjoyed it too.